So I've had experience in strategic communication, and I want to talk to you about how that affects you in your next job, how you will use it wherever you go and at whatever level. Because no matter what you do, there are patterns. Things follow a pattern. And once you can see that pattern, you can tell how things are going to come out, whether you're in front of that train or hopefully driving behind it. Now I want to show you a quick video here. This is an advertisement from the Guardian newspaper trying to increase their circulation and, as all newspapers now, stay alive. So whether it's tablet, web, or online news, this is their 2-minute version of a way to get you to buy in. So, web, print, tablet, and mobile. Isn't that great? I love that. I love those pigs.
That accelerates.
Watch the issue accelerate. Watch it grow. And if you're not paying attention to what's happening on social media, you can really see things can get out of hand quickly. I've spent a lot of time in the last couple of months talking to corporate and various businesses, and the difference between them and what you will face in your challenges in career and public affairs is they might see one crisis in their career, if that. You will fortunately or unfortunately have the opportunity to face many of them. So we'll skip the next slide since that's, yes, pigs again. You know, I used to show that to all of my attorneys. In my last command, I had the Army's new legal command. I had 1,785 attorneys in that organization. And so I would show this to them for the same reason, to talk about pattern. And all they would ever say to me was, where was the defense attorney for those pigs? You know, they were worried about that. So what has changed in strategic communication over the last few years? Well, first of all, you know, you can really see it when this picture is big, but isn't that what they tell you never to do with a picture? I'm sure he never realized he had that little glow around his head. But I talked about this in the article that I had sent you from the NATO publication. It's Admiral Stavridis, then the SACEUR. And a few years ago, while he was still in Mons, I took a group of War College students to visit him. So I was their senior mentor. There's about 8 of them. We come in, and he shows them. You all read the article, right? It's only a lot of reading if you do it. So he takes them in, shows them his desk, Abraham Lincoln's desk. He shows them the picture of his great-grandfather who emigrated to the States. He shows them, look, and here's his college degree. Here's my great-grandmother. And of course, none of this would have happened if they hadn't emigrated to the U.S. from Greece. So why is he doing that? Why is he showing them that? I asked that of the students afterwards. Now you think of his job, and he probably meets heads of state all the time. And he does this routine of let me introduce you and tell you about my family to everybody who comes in. So what he's doing is setting the stage, starting the conversation. And what's his message? Whisper it to yourselves. What he's saying is, America has ties to Europe that are greater than that of alliance and of friendship, but are ties of family. And this at a time when people are worried about the downsizing of units and the protection of Europe, especially because of the rise in aggression from Russia. So that is a great example to me of what strategic communication is. If you look at some of the other things that Admiral Stavridis has written, he's written a number of books on command available from the Naval Institute Press, and he's also written a piece, a major piece from when he was the Southcom commander on our outreach and presence in South America, using the USS Hope as an example, the hospital ship. So it is not just about conversation, it is about deeds that match words. Great examples. And go to the next slide. So I was asked to talk about what happened since I published that book. And I think the term you hear now is more one of narrative than strategic communication. What happened with strategic communication was, in some circles over the past 5 years or so, is it became politicized. It became a place or an office or a job description rather than a process or a thought process or a way of looking forward. So now you'll hear the term, what's our narrative? What's our story? Who are we? What's our identity? What's our brand? There was a great piece in the Wall Street Journal last week, an interview on leadership, and Admiral Dunford was interviewed on leadership military style. And they asked him, distill everything you know about leadership. And he said, you have a vision, you set the example, and you communicate that, personally and through your subordinates. So what is strategic communication but communicating that vision, communicating that commander's intent? And that is something you will have at every level as you continue to move through your career. So what is the story of your organization? What is your elevator pitch? What is your tweet about it? 140 words, 140 characters. Now, you mentioned my trashy mystery novels. I'm working on my 5th one. I went this past summer to the International Thriller Writers Conference. I'm sure you've all heard of that, right? Just like I had. And so for 2 days there are seminars on writing. How you write differently in mysteries than thrillers, how you stylize them, how you construct the size of the book, what happens at page 200, then at 350, and so on. And then on the last day you get to pitch your story ideas to about 60 or so of the biggest literary agents in New York. So there you are in a lineup with 200 other cattle, and at 1 o'clock they open the doors and let you all run in. So sitting at the tables are literary agents. Hello, nice to meet you. And they turn on the egg timer. You have 3 minutes to convince them that your book is unique, your approach is unique, that you have a platform to sell, and that they should want to buy it. There's nothing intimidating about that, is there? And they want it in 18 to 25 words. They said, we found the best pitch is 17 words. There's not much I can get out in 17 words, especially if you think about a 350-page book, about 84,000 words. So that's a constant process of distilling what it is that you're selling, you're talking about, you're promoting, you're projecting. And if you look online, you can see there's also business applications for the pitch. And go to the next slide. Look at how these stories have changed over the past few years. Big piece from the Washington Post this past weekend on ISIS and propaganda. As the enemies we face grow more adept and more technically proficient at using technology and media to promote their organization, how we counter that becomes ever more important and ever more difficult. They don't have rules. We do. One of my friends has just left the Center for Counterterrorism Communications, CTCC at State. And part of what they have been working on is countering this narrative. The difficult part of this is how everyone disagrees on how to do it. And there are many, many views of what we should be doing. Next slide. But what works to me the best is the story of the individual. You look at that piece on the left, the ISIS, we are coming to kill you, and the individual soldier's response, well, hurry up. Humor, sarcasm, the things that individuals can say and do sometimes have a greater impact than that which the organization says or does. Real heroes, the story of real heroes. We can all repeat the story of Spencer Stone. Did that have an effect on promoting the image of the Air Force, the reputation of the U.S. military? An average guy on a train makes a decision. Words, deeds. And then upper left, you all know his story as well. The stories of individuals are what continues to promote the reputation of this organization. And you can see that, I think, in some of our changing recruiting materials as well, because this is the appeal to a new generation to come into the service and make a difference. Next slide. Now, I talked about the story. Anybody know the story of Nemo? Well, once upon a time,
Baby fish.
there was a fish named Marlin who had a son named Nemo, and
They got separated.
they got separated because every day Marlin said, do not go out in the big ocean. Then one day,
Nemo touched the button.
Nemo touched the button and away he went. Because of that, he ends up in a fish tank in a dentist office. Because of that, Marlin has to go rescue him. Until finally, they get home safely and everybody lives happily ever after.